Hey everyone, welcome to the Happy Flosser podcast. My name is Billy Lunt. I am your host, and I am here to talk to you about all things dental hygiene to support you on your journey through the dental hygiene program. Welcome, so glad to have you. Hey, are you in dental hygiene school or just got your acceptance letter and just started dental hygiene school? And you're worried about how you're going to fit it all in, what the evaluations are like, what the key strategies you need to set up in order to be successful? You don't want to have worked all this time to get accepted into dental hygiene school only to make some pretty major errors in your first and second semester. I've put together a course that will really help you set yourself straight right out of the gate and get yourself started on the right foot in dental hygiene school. Whether or not you're just entering school or you've done your prerequisites and you're just well on your way halfway through, this course is designed to help get you straight and keep you straight so that you can become a dental hygienist. Click the link in the show notes and check it out. Otto is a journalist who lives down in Washington, D.C., and she followed a story that just helped land her in the topic of oral health, which is where we come in. And she embarked on this journey and just let the story unfold. And as a result of her efforts, a lot of progress was made in the area of oral health in underserved populations. And I know that you're required to read this book in your community health class. I really hope that hearing Mary's voice and hearing her story creates a little bit of a deeper connection to you as far as how this whole book came to life and how it came to be. It's a real story about a real family and a real situation. And it charges us with asking a lot more questions of ourselves in our profession. So take a listen. I hope you enjoy it and you are as impacted as I was when I spoke with her. I have the pleasure of speaking with Mary Otto today. Mary is just one of my favorite, most inspiring public health dental folks that I've come across in recent years. Many of you know Mary as the writer of the most amazing book, Teeth. And it's my pleasure to have her on the podcast. Mary is taking the time out of her busy life to speak with us about her journey and the hard work that went into developing that book and what caused her to focus on oral health and what drove her to write this book. So welcome, Mary. Thanks for being with us today.
Oh, Billy, it's an honor to be with you today and a pleasure and have a chance to talk with you and through you to your students and your community there in that beautiful place. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, we shared a couple snowstorm photos after our last meeting, and Mary's missing the snowflakes for those of you that enjoy winter.
I know it takes extra courage to get out there in this kind of weather. So I have even more awe of you than at any other time of year.
And you're located in, is it Virginia, Mary?
I live right in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, not a lot of snowflakes.
In the capital city. We haven't had even as much as usual. But unlike y'all, people they just can't handle it here. Every snowstorm is this completely new, shocking development for people here. So we should take a page from your book and kind of put it into our skill set at some point.
It's all perspectives.
It really is.
Your surroundings, right?
Just one more reminder. It is all perspective.
It really is. So tell our students, because you are not a dental hygienist and you are not a dental professional, but you would not know that from your passionate writing in your book.
Well, most of what I learned and know today, so much of it is from dental hygienists. Dental hygienists are the best educators you could possibly have, and so many of them were patient enough to talk with me along my way of trying to put this story together. The unique skills that hygienists bring to this the world of oral health are just so precious because dental hygienists, they navigate for patients, they help them translate, their health issues and they're often their concerns and fear. I mean, I thought I was the only one who was afraid of going to the dentist, but no, it's very, very, very common. I learned, and there's a lot of stigma and shame. It's completely unfair burden of shame that goes along with oral disease. People tend to blame themselves, and so much can happen with that when the dental hygienist meets the patient and can just talk with them about health and wellness and setting goals for taking care of oneself and just dispel so much of that worry and concern that patients have. And it also can prevent people from actually seeking out care when they need it. It's like, oh, just one of those things that goes to the back of the list because they're afraid and worried. So yeah, you can open the door in ways that other healthcare providers can't.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, that is the heartbeat of
Hmm.
the profession is to
Yeah.
educate, to lift up, to raise
Yes.
awareness, to
Yes.
increase the knowledge.
Yes.
And in a passionate way, we are the
Mm.
prevention specialists of the
Yes.
universe, right?
Yes. And empowering patients. It's like, okay, you can do this. You got the tools. I can help you, you know, take you, let's go on this journey with us, and help people understand what oral health is and how they can, kind of get some of that for themselves.
For
It's so
sure,
empowering. Yeah.
for sure. I love that you get it, right? Most most people, when you say dental hygienist, they don't say all the things that you just said. Although if you ask a hygienist, that's what we would say.
Mm.
So, how did you get involved in all of this?
Well, it was one of those strange accidents. Journalists, you go out to different things just typically every day, and I've been a journalist for, decades and covered all kinds of things, from, house fires and car accidents to, housing issues, law passages of laws, debates over policies. And I was working at the Washington Post in 2007, covering social issues for the Metro Desk, which is the bureau that served our local communities in Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. A lot of a lot of my work focused on poverty issues,
Yeah.
housing shortages, debates about preserving affordable housing, homelessness. And, I got to know advocates and activists and grassroots organizations that worked in these same areas that I was covering. People would often show up at meetings, court hearings. And over the years, I got to know, a good network of folks who were concerned with these issues, and I got to know the issues pretty well. And through that kind of community, I met an advocate for homeless issues named Lori Norris. She's a lawyer. She worked at a nonprofit organization in Baltimore, and I got to know her through a particularly interesting case she was working on that had to do with a homeless family who was fighting these children. This young teenager actually learned about the Stuart B. McKinney Act that allowed homeless children to stay in their school if they lost their home, so it wasn't like uprooting these children from a school that they knew because their family had lost housing. Just a long story short, that's how I got to know Lori Norris. She successfully represented these children and got them to stay in their high school, and I stayed in touch with her over the years. And, she worked on interesting cases. And I got a call from her one day that said, I'm working on this with this family now. It's like I got to know them through the school registration calls I was making, but they're having trouble with dental care. And got in touch with Mrs. Driver, Diamante's mom. And at that point, as it turned out, I went to Children's Hospital where Diamante was fighting for his life. And turned out his younger brother had actually been trying to find dental care Mrs. Driver had actually been trying to find dental care for Diamante's younger brother, who was complaining about his teeth. They're living in this, you know, working poor community, not too far from the U.S. Capitol, but over the border in Maryland. And Mrs. Driver had called all these names on this list of dentists who were supposed to be providing care to Medicaid families, kids in that community. And some of the phone numbers didn't work. Some of the dentists weren't taking any new patients, but she'd been struggling to find care for her family when Diamante came home from school one day with this headache, and he was not feeling well at all. And his grandmother, who was worried about him, took him to a little community hospital, and there he was diagnosed with this sinus infection and a dental abscess. And he got some medicine and he went home, but he got much worse. And like 4 days later, Mrs. Driver was so worried about him, she took him to a larger county hospital. And there he was given a spinal tap. And doctors realized that he had a brain infection, that this dental abscess had spread to his brain. And he was at this point fighting for his life. And he was rushed to Children's Hospital here in Washington, which is this, great beacon of hope for children. And there he'd received 2 brain surgeries, had this infected tooth extracted finally, and he was still fighting for his life when I met him and his worried mom, sitting by his bedside. And, I started working on this story, and so many pieces fell into places. I continued to stay in touch with the drivers and work on this story. It turned out Diamante was not alone. The driver children were not alone in being unable to find dental care. It was a terrible problem across the state of Maryland and across our region. And as it turned out, across the country. In Maryland alone, hundreds of thousands of poor children who were entitled to dental care under Medicaid were not receiving care. And there was a shortage of dentists to see them, and just a terrible crisis. And I worked on the story and turned it in, and it sat on my editor's desk for a little while, to be honest with you. Dentistry is not always the top concern, even of newspaper editors, let alone of other people. But it's one of those silent epidemics, as Dr. David Satcher said in his,
Sure.
Oral Health in America. There's still this kind of thing. It's like, well, why didn't they go to the dentist? And people who have sort of a ability to make appointments and keep appointments and go get the things they need and take an hour off of work to run it, they don't understand, whether it's a lawmaker or a newspaper editor or, they just don't get it. It's like, they don't get it. So anyway, I stayed in touch with the drivers, and Diamante was moved to another hospital, or a rehabilitative hospital, and his teachers were bringing him his papers to help him stay on top of his work, but he wasn't getting better. In fact, as you know, if you read the book, he died.
Mm-hmm.
And I get this call from my editor one night. We're going to use that dental story tomorrow. I said, well, let me check with his mom. I got to make sure he's doing okay. And it turned out he had died a couple of days before. I said, I called my editor back. I said, the child died. We've got to rework that story, Jesus.
Yeah.
So, the story appeared. And it turned out, it's like one of those odd things. It turned out that it was just this moment in time when there was this opportunity for this horrible tragedy to reach people who are ready to not only grasp it, but to do something with it. It was right at that very moment that these oral health advocates, they had been fighting for 10 years to get oral health benefits included into this another program like Medicaid, but for children of just a little higher income level. It's called the State Children's Health Insurance Program, SCHIP at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 years old. It was getting ready to be reauthorized. And like so many other big federal healthcare programs, dental benefits had been treated like kind of a fringe benefit or an add-on. And the kids, like 7 million kids at that time, were not guaranteed a dental benefit along with the full range of other healthcare benefits that this program conferred. And these advocates were getting ready to meet with their congressman when this story ran in the Washington Post. And it turned out one of the leaders who'd been fighting for this dental benefit for 10 years, he'd flown from New York to Washington to meet his congressman, and he was stopped to get his shoe shined on his way to Capitol Hill. So he looked his very best.
Right.
And he picked up this newspaper in the newsstand while he was getting his shoe shined, and there was a story of Diamante and his picture, and he said, oh my heavens, And he brought this with him to his, congressman's office, and the congressman got it, and they decided to have, highlight this death of this child in their hearings. And they had lots of hearings. It's like, what is going on? Why is this wealthy state of Maryland and other states across the country not giving the dental benefits to poor kids who they're entitled to by law, And they got federal officials to come and testify about why they were leaving this out, and state officials come to say, why aren't you stepping up to the plate? And some of them had successful, approaches to this challenge and talked about it. And in the state of Maryland, the brand new governor held up the newspaper in his cabinet meeting, said, what are we going to do about this? We cannot ever let this happen again. We've got to reform this system. And he put a dental hygienist in charge of the reforms because Jane Casper would get it, just like she's so practical. Anyway, and on the local level, dentists were so mortified. African-American dentists, the chapter of the National Dental Association, started raising money to put a mobile clinic on the road and go to these, make rounds of these Title I schools in Prince George's County where Diamante lived, just to say, hey, school nurses, local dentists, children's advocates, principals, we've all got to be on the same page with this. These kids cannot suffer like this anymore. So actions were actually taken, Yeah. And there have been so many other deaths and so much suffering that's gone under the radar screen. But this one tragic story, it took on a life of its own, I mean,
yeah. Mary, when I read the story, my one thing that came in my mind was, what can I do better? What can I do more of? And how can I be part of the change that needs to take place in oral health across the country? And it's really, we need to shift our brains to prevention, because prevention is sustainable and achievable if we can do that.
yes.
And find ways to support the dentists so that they can figure out what their role is, because the hygienists are the ones that are going to lead the charge, right?
They are.
Oh, but the book, I hate that the book is a tragic story, and I can't even imagine what that family went through.
Yeah.
But I do think it highlights something that needed to be said. And I hope that every student who listens thinks to themselves, what can I do? How can I be part of putting oral health and prevention at the center moving forward? I really do.
Well, the skills that you all are kindling and nurturing there are all so key to all this. I mean, it's like Jane Casper. I got to know her pretty well. She was the head of this dental action committee that the governor, appointed to come up with solutions in Maryland. And it turned out, the dental hygienists in the state had been struggling for years to be allowed to go out into schools and other public health settings. And, they could see a whole classroom full of students and, an hour, half an hour, screen them, provide fluoride varnishes and sealants in a timely manner to protect those newly emerged molars. I mean, if Diamante had one of those sealants, he'd probably be, God, alive today with his own family, for heaven's sake,
Yeah.
but they could do that. And they finally got a breakthrough with this tragedy. It became one of the solutions that the state of Maryland decided to embrace and implement was allow hygienists with public health, certificates to go out into these public health, schools, WIC centers, where families come to pick up their food, say, hey, there's that little baby. Do you have a has he seen a dentist? Can I look in his mouth?
Yeah.
Give a little health message, about, don't put the baby to bed with anything but water in that bottle, just let's help you, encouragement, all that stuff,
Yeah, it breaks down the barriers, right? So some
breaks
people
down the
can't, yeah, they
barriers.
can't take time off from work. They can't
No, yeah.
take, they can't get their car to
Mm-hmm.
the facility. I
Mm-hmm.
love the WIC and the
Yeah.
mobile van ideas.
Yeah.
It really kind of it's more of an exponential impact that you can just go
Yes.
right where the kids are.
Yes. Yes.
I love
Exactly.
that. I love that.
Bring it out there to, to where the patients are,
Yes. I think about the mobile blood vans where you
Mm-hmm.
maybe didn't have the intention when you wake up in the morning to donate blood, but then you see the van and you're like, "Oh, I have some time," you know?
Yes.
And sometimes it's just putting something in the community
Yes.
that opens up the
Yes.
opportunity to reach more people.
That's right. That's right. That little health fair, whatever.
Yeah,
And it's going to become more and more, all these possibilities have opened up. I mean, the pandemic has even taught us some, new lessons. But, with the mobile, I was just amazed that even in the time I was working on the book, how more portable the equipment became and the intraoral cameras and less expensive, easier to handle. It allows hygienists to go out. It's like take an x-ray, call the dentist back in the office, say, doc, what do you think?
yep,
Just kind of make it more of a it's just untethers the care, from these brick and mortar institutions that can often be very hard to reach for people in these high
for
underserved
sure.
communities.
Yeah, I do think we're making progress in the conversations, and I
Mhm.
think I really don't think there's anyone that goes into the field of dentistry that doesn't want to offer their heart to the people around them in the communities where they live.
Mhm.
Some of us just don't know how,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yes.
I think like you said, the pandemic that opened up our opportunity to think about what does teledentistry do, and
Hmm.
and how can we, maybe do screenings to people remotely and then get them the care that they need
Yes.
in a more expensive environment like a dental chair, right?
Hmm.
So there's so many possibilities, but we just need to rethink and
Yeah.
have a little shift in how
Yes.
we're doing things. And I think your book was kind of like the torch, the torch that lit the conversation for everyone.
Oh, well, I'm so grateful it helped. You just never know.
It's true, Mary. It's true.
It's re-
Well, I love that you kind of you were kind of in the sinkhole of all of these different conversations, and you went into all these different story. I mean, you were kind of covering a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe there was a reason why you ended in dental, right? You ended up on a story in dental, inadvertently, but definitely the universe had a purpose for you to do that.
Well, I think the universe has a purpose for all of us, and it's just a
Sure.
matter of just trying to sort of say, okay, yeah, all right, and trying to just take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and
Yeah.
because I got discouraged at times, it's literally the book came out like 10 years almost to the day from the day that Diamante died. And, there were setbacks along the way. And lots of times when I thought, this is crazy, I'm the worst person in the world to be working on this, but it did happen. And unexpected helpers came along too,
Yeah, for sure.
and that's the thing you have to keep open to, just keep trying, keep making, just keep trying, even if it's just a little bit every day, to keep working. And I know you guys have your own goals and dreams to, that probably apply the same methods could apply.
Yeah. I did you have you spoke with his mom or kept in touch with his mom?
Yeah, I
What
have.
yeah. What did she think about your book?
I think, I think any book about that concerns something so personal to you has got to be a real challenge to read. But she's very, she's very kind and accepting, and came along on even a couple of book book events where, right back at University of Maryland, where so much of it happened. She came, and actually I got 3 copies of the book when it first came out. The very first time I ever laid eyes on it, I got 2 more copies, and I wrapped them up for Mrs. Driver and Lori Norris, that advocate who was helping her and has continued to stay very involved in that family's life. And we met at IHOP and had
Oh, nice.
breakfast together, and I gave them the books, and.
I think if I ever saw her, not that I would know, I would want her to know that her story has inspired the whole entire group of dental people across the country. It really has. There isn't a hygienist out there that doesn't have their heart skip a beat when we talk
Mm.
about your book.
Well, I was gonna write her a note actually today. For some reason, I sent her a Christmas card, and it came back to me like they got undelivered. It was undelivered. So I'm gonna send her a note and say, "I'm sorry, you didn't get my Christmas card, but I'm thinking of you." And I'll tell her you said that. I will put that in there.
Yeah.
So that you remain. I'll tell her she remains an inspiration to so many people who are making such a difference.
She does. Well, because once you become a mom,
Mm,
you can't imagine
yeah.
life with life any other way with, anything
Mm,
happening ever to your
yeah,
children. So,
that's so right.
I think the best thing we could do for her is it could never take away her pain or her loss, but we could certainly say we're doing everything we can. We're doing everything we can, and we are fighting for the future of oral health for kids and underserved populations across the country, because this is the United States of America, and we need to have a
Hmm.
a better track record for sure.
I'm writing this down. I'm going to send it right to her.
Oh. Well, Mary, you continue to inspire the
Mm,
public health initiatives across this country and all of the advocacy that we all work towards for oral health and to better all the small communities, all the big communities out there. And I think dental hygienists are definitely charged with saying, okay, what can we do? What more can we do? How can we educate, increase knowledge, create more prevention and access for people?
mm,
And that's what we're charged with doing.
it's wonderful. That's wonderful. So glad to think of you all out there making such a difference.
Absolutely. And now we're charged with getting the next generation to, we're passing the torch to them. And all the students I work with, they are so passionate. Their hearts are full with possibility of how they will leave their impact on the world. And so I love that we have them read your book.
Mm,
It really gives them an eye on the public health section,
mm.
and before they even graduate, they get to see what they're up against and what they're charged with and what's
Yeah.
coming their way. But it also lets them see the opportunities that are there
Yes.
for them to use their
Yes.
skills to really maximize their impact that they can
Hmm.
have on the world around them.
Which is such a great way to live, to
Yes.
know every day you are going to make a difference.
Yeah.
You
Well,
are.
it's true. It's the be, do, have, right? If you be the person that you inspire to be, and then do the things that you're charged to do, that you're capable of
Hmm.
doing, and then you will have the life
Hmm.
that you wanted,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
That's what I say to my students. I want them to
Oh.
to be that person,
Hmm.
And I think your book challenges them to do just that. It's great, Mary. You are
Oh.
a gift to the field of dentistry,
Oh.
to exposing a really
Oh.
hard story.
Oh.
That
Yeah.
must have been a hard journey, but
Mm.
for generations, because now it's in print, right? It never goes away once it's there. It
Yeah.
will leave a mark. It will leave a mark. What can we do better?
Mm. Well, it sounds like you are fine living what they say, the answer is living the question. It sounds like you are living it in such an earnest and skilled way. It's
Oh,
stunning.
just trying to be better than I was yesterday.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
That's all we can do.
All we can do.
Well, it's a pleasure, Mary, and thank
Oh,
you for sharing your story with our
oh,
students.
such a joy, Billy. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would invite you to ask any questions at all that you need answered. Sometimes questions come up when you're listening to this podcast. If you have a question, most likely someone else has the very same question. I'd be happy to answer it and would probably share it in a future podcast.